You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
I wanted our children to have the connection with their food that I did not have growing up, that there was a life that was given for your life to keep going on. First, when I started off homesteading, I started in a way that I really try to encourage people not to do. And it's trying to do everything at the same time. If you're coming from the scarcity mindset and the mindset that, oh, it's too expensive to invest in yourself, you're probably not going to be successful. And we have to invest in ourselves to get the education that we need to be better. That real physical work is the original workout. I never thought that I would live in a yurt or a glorified tent, whatever it is. I needed some healing from that constant life of go, stress, noises. We work, then we play. We can work hard and then play hard. That's totally fine. But we got to work first. We got to work hard first so that we've earned the right to play. This is the Fit Farmer, and you're listening to the Airey Brothers Radio.
A good place to start off is for any of our listeners who don't know who you are, researching for this podcast, kind of finding out that you started out of your apartment or out of your house in Atlanta, just started growing some crops and kind of took a life of its own from there. So maybe kind of let us know how you kind of got into it, what your thoughts were when you guys moved into the yurt, and how that has changed of what your homestead has become.
Yeah. Let's see. When we were living in the city, growing up, I had no background at all in growing any food at all. But I was really interested in working out and bodybuilding and some of the movies that I really enjoyed. I love anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I was like, I want to look like those guys. So I got more into working out. I played football in high school, but I really enjoyed being in the gym and working out and looking good and feeling good. And that led me into just being in the gym, being the gym rat, and eventually getting into bodybuilding. And then as I was in that journey of learning about bodybuilding and learning that to do that and to be successful and having a good looking physique, that I needed to actually have a good diet to go with it, that it wasn't just you could put whatever in your body and expect to look like you're in tip top shape. So I started cleaning up my diet, studying and reading as much as I could about working out and the foods that went along with it. And I was able to meet some of the bodybuilders at the time, some pro bodybuilders, and actually one guy that was in the gym that I was working at. He was a bodybuilder and he was helping me out with getting my diet right. And we were preparing for getting ready for one of my first competitions. And I just kept going with that. I kept going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of just learning about food. So I grew up eating terrible. I ate Pop-Tarts multiple times a day. I would eat Frosted Flakes for cereal for breakfast in the morning and add sugar onto my Frosted Flakes. And I'd probably be drinking Hawaiian Punch and then just sugar all throughout the day. It was just a bad. And if I would have stayed on that diet, I'd probably have type 2 diabetes for sure by now. But it was just a diet of just a sad American diet of just so much sugar, so much processed food. It was sad. So one of the things that I noticed as I started eating a cleaner diet, as I was going into bodybuilding, I noticed that I started feeling better. I noticed I started having more energy. I noticed that growing up, I always had like nasal congestion. I felt like I never was able to breathe out of both nostrils at the same time growing up. And then as I started cleaning up my diet, I was like, man, I can actually breathe out of both nostrils at the same time. I remember asking my wife, I think she may have been just my girlfriend or fiance at the time. I was like, is it abnormal that I went most of my life without being able to breathe out of both nostrils? And she's like, no, that is not normal at all. And for me, that was just it was like a big sign of just showing how much of an impact our diet can have on our bodies. So I kept going. We were doing the bodybuilding thing for a couple of years and was pretty successful at that. I was able to get my pro card and as a pro natural bodybuilder. Along that journey, my wife and I, we were both into fitness and health, and we just kept eating better and better. We started off eating natural, thinking that was good, and then we started eating organic, thinking we were doing good with that and feeling good about that. And then I started thinking, you know what? for me to know that I'm putting the best food in my body, I probably should start growing something so that way I know the story behind my food. So started started growing something. We had bought our first house together in the city, and I was like, you know what? I want to have my garden. I want to have a garden. So I started my first garden, my wife and I, and it was just empowering growing something from seed and then being able to enjoy it with my wife, and then eventually we started having kids and to be able to enjoy that. And that was kind of how the journey kind of started with growing food. It all just kind of started with that connection with my fitness background.
So what made you want to turn that into a lifestyle? At what part of growing your own garden and realizing the benefits of that did you say, hey, I want to do this full time and make a life out of it?
It was a couple things. One is the enjoyment that came from growing and the empowerment that was there. And then another thing was our children. We started having children, and I was spending like 12, 14 hours a day from them, and then I'd come home dead tired, and it went from me absolutely loving to be at the gym constantly to me getting to the point where I was like, you know what? I started hating it actually, because it just felt so much more freeing, so much more empowering to be out there, and I was getting exercise at the same time. I would do pretty much everything by hand. I was shoveling, I was breaking ground with hand, using just I just enjoyed the physical activity that came with it, and just being outside, and then being able to have my children along doing those things with me. It just felt great, and it was one of those things that I never thought that I would have like a career as a farmer or whatever, but it was just like, you know what, I want to do whatever I can to set up a business or something, so that way I am more free to be at home more, so I don't have to spend a bulk of my day away from my family, and then give them the least of me at the end of the day for like an hour or whatever when I'm dead tired. I was like, I don't want that. I want a lifestyle where we can share life together, that we can spend the quality hours and energies of ourself, the high quality energy, with my family. So I started off, ended up leaving the gym part time. I was working full time as a personal trainer, nutritional coach, and I ended up going to working on my own part time with the training clients. And then gradually we were starting to create various income streams here on the farmstead, homestead, and then farmstead. And then I was able to go from full time away to part time away to eventually being able to create a business, a home based business where everything we do now is from here. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So in that transition and where you are now, Mike, I'm curious, with your business and all that you have going and your content creation, do you ever venture to the gym for fun now?
I used to go. I probably have not been to the gym probably in about 5 or 6 years now,
Okay.
because I have kind of developed the philosophy of intentional movement that you even think back in the day, most people who live very physically active lifestyles, they didn't go to the gym. There was not necessarily a need for it unless you're training for something specific. That was abnormal for most of our human history. Now there were times where you had armies and stuff that were doing specific training for what they needed to train for. But all the things that I do now are more functional based, lifestyle based, intentional movements that I don't need to necessarily go to the gym to get the workout, because one of the things that I have kind of adopted now, the philosophy is that real physical work is the original workout. So
Yeah.
not only am I doing something where say it's splitting wood, not only am I splitting wood and providing heat for my family, I'm also getting a great workout at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Our old man always used to say he didn't need to go to the gym because he worked for a living.
yeah.
So
The only times that I think that I also do think that there's some people, even though I'm going to say maybe masonry, people who work in masonry construction. Yes, they're getting a lot of resistance training, lifting block and brick, and I've done that job as well. But sometimes though, they also need to maybe add some things like cardio to kind of make sure you're getting a balanced workout, so that way overall health, you're getting overall health benefits. Those are things to keep in mind as well as flexibility and things like that.
Okay. So I'm curious, you have a very successful YouTube channel that I assume you've been able to profit and monetize off of. You mentioned some of your other things that that slowly allowed you to go from, part-time to going away from the gym. What other things on the homestead and on the farmstead have you been able to monetize, or do you monetize?
Yes, first I started off. First, when I started off homesteading, I was started in a way that I really try to encourage people not to do, and it's trying to do everything at the same time. It's like you're interested in chickens, you're interested in ducks, you're interested in gardening, you're interested in canning, you're interested in all these different things. And most people, when you're trying to do all those things, you're not doing any of them really well. So I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So I was like, all right, to be successful with this, we kind of need to narrow our focus and then try to get good at one thing and then go from there. So for me, what I had found was to narrow down to market gardening. And I learned from a farmer from Canada called Curtis Stone, who did urban farming, and he taught people how to um, be profitable on with small scale farming. And with that, you're focusing on certain crops that are high rotation, high profitability crops that really narrow that focus. And with that, that was what was enabled me to be able to reduce my time away of working, and eventually to be full time working from here. And along, I would say, kind of parallel with that was YouTube. I first started doing YouTube as just kind of like a farm journal, just journaling, vlogging our day to day life. I never thought that it was going to be what it is today. But it has also kind of taken off and been the main thing that I do is content creation now. We still grow food. We still have a market garden. I still produce, we raise now pastured poultry, meat, eggs. We also raise ducks for meat and eggs, and we're raising turkeys and things like that. Um, but within the content creation, that also enables us to be able to also do some affiliate marketing and work with companies in that regard as well. So there's multiple facets to our home-based business. So yeah.
So you bring up mentioning the market gardening and learning from another gentleman in Canada to kind of focus on that. And on your page, you cover a lot of different homesteaders and a lot of different farmers. I know you've done some work with Joel Slayton and you've gone and educated yourself there. So how much have you had to educate yourself and go learn from other farmers and stuff throughout the process?
Education is huge. Whatever endeavor that you're try to get around people who are successful at it. I did that with bodybuilding, and it helped me out tremendously. And that has helped me out even more so in what we're doing from the farming standpoint, because it'll save you a lot of time, a lot of wasted time and energy if you're just trying to figure it all out on your own. But if you're going to people who have already blazed the trail and have learned things sometimes the hard way, they can help you to avoid some of those things. I've tried to I try to encourage people on a regular basis: go to conferences, go to workshops, go wherever you can. If there's something that you really want to be to excel in, get yourself around people who are already doing it. And I know sometimes people are like, "Oh man, going to this conference or going to that is just too much or too expensive or too this." But when you look at that as an investment in yourself, it's kind of like people spend so much money, thousands of dollars going to college or whatever to get whatever they're trying to get, degree or whatever. You should have a same mindset towards whatever it is that your business that you're trying to be successful in. I consider that an investment in myself to get around these people, so that way, hey, they're saving me years of trial and error, of money and time wasted. If I can get around them and learn instead of spending 5 years to figure something out, hey, if I can learn from them and I can do it in one, it'll make a world of difference. And for the market gardening is one of those good examples. Like learning from Curtis Stone and learning exactly what crops to grow and exactly like pricing and things like that. that saved me. I don't even know how many years that it would have taken me to learn some of those things. It's just extremely valuable information. So I think that's, if you're coming from the scarcity mindset and the mindset that, oh, it's too expensive to invest in yourself, uh you're probably not going to be successful in whatever it is that you're trying to do. That we have to invest in ourselves to get the education that we need to be better.
Has there been a skill set or a skill that you learned that you didn't even think of going into this that has been a complete game changer? I know you mentioned the market garden. Has there been anything else?
Well, that's a good question. um Skill. There's little things like how to grow microgreens. Those are basically little plant starts that sell, that people use to put on sandwiches, and they're really popular with restaurants. Learning how to do things like that is extremely valuable. Learning how to turn over a bed, to get a garden bed ready and the soil ready to actually put plants in. That sometimes it needs certain fertilizers, things to look for. All those skills are another one of those things. It was just extremely valuable information that, hey, I learned how to do it from these people. Same with working out. Yeah, you invest in a trainer or whatever, somebody to help you take things to the next level. How to do an exercise properly, that make a big difference in the results that you're getting, and learning how to do an exercise correctly versus maybe incorrectly, and you could get injured too.
Yeah, no doubt. Mike, what does a typical day look like for you?
All right, let's see here. Wake up. Uh, Usually wake up somewhere around a little before sunrise. Um, this time of year, I don't necessarily head right out as it's getting cooler, especially when things start to freeze. But let things warm up a little bit, and I try to get the body warmed up so I don't go out there to pull something too. With carrying buckets of water to take to the animal. So we head out there and um, take water to our chickens and our ducks and our cows. And right now we got a dairy cow not too long ago, so I'm out there with my wife and helping her out with the cow, or milking the cow and getting our good real milk in for the morning. Then we go around just making sure all the animals are fed and ready to go for the day. Some days I'll have particular projects in mind, but I also will plan out usually one day a week. Usually, right now that's Sunday. I'll plan out my week as far as what I'm going to do from a content creation standpoint and how that aligns with the projects going on the farmstead. So when we're done with the chores, if I'm not recording things related to the chores, I usually will hop into the project of the day or recording for whatever I need to do, and then kind of go from there. I don't necessarily do breakfast, so I do a lot of intermittent fasting. And if I do anything earlier in the day, it'll be like a tea and maybe a protein shake, and then I'll do my lunch somewhere around 11:30, 12, somewhere around in there. I'll have a lunch, and we usually kind of regroup as a family, just kind of chat a little bit for lunch, and then get back on whatever projects we have. And then afternoon, we have afternoon chores where we gather the eggs from the chickens, making sure the animals are still good to go on feed, water, tidying them up, and things like that. And then another important part is making sure that we have family meal times together, always together, TV off. That way we can talk and enjoy the same meals together, and just make sure we're also working on our family relationships, because family is the big reason why I do what I do. It's really important to me.
Are your children homeschooled?
Yes, we do
Yeah.
homeschool, so there's homeschooling in there as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Have they all been born on the farmstead, or was there some? They have some older. Were they born down in Atlanta, or has everyone kind of grown up on the farmstead?
We have four kids. Two were born before we moved here, and then two were born while we are here. But even the two, well, we're not born here. We moved. One of my goals was to make this transition from living in the city to homesteading at a younger age, so it wouldn't be as hard for them to um, to adjust to it. So that now that's this lifestyle is pretty much all that they know. They don't know. They really don't remember what it was like when we lived in the city, and so it's pretty much the life that they've known. And yeah, yeah. So all of them have, except for the really youngest that's just born February, all of them have chores. I think chores are extremely important for character development, helping them to develop a good work ethic, also helping them to develop a sense of responsibility that I have assigned each child their own areas that they're to take care of. They're responsible for it. They need to make sure the animals are taken care of. And if there are problems that if something happened and it's your fault, that hey, it was on you, and that kind of helps to them to understand that there's consequences when we don't do something that we need to do, um and that it just helps them to learn an overall better sense of responsibility.
I'm curious with the chores and that sort of stuff with the animals. I'm assuming you're processing those, and some of those are becoming your food. How do you
Yes.
how do I guess how do you navigate that with the kids and understanding that, maybe teaching them not to get too attached? I've also heard sometimes you don't necessarily name them. I don't know if
Yes.
that's just urban legend, or how does all that
Yes.
work?
Well, one of the another big part of why we did what we did is I wanted our children to have the connection with their food that I did not have growing up. I wanted them to know where their food came from, how it's grown, and that to have that meat that you're eating and enjoying, that that there was an animal that had to be processed, had to be butchered for you to enjoy that chicken, that piece of steak, that whatever it is, that that there was a life that was given for your life to keep going on. So from a young age, they've all been involved in that. And I can still remember the first time that I did it in my life. We were still in the city. We had some chickens, and I was like, you know what? I want to be able to do this one day. And it's like I got to see if I can do it. You know what? Before you're going into it, you're like doubting yourself. You're like, am I going to be able to do this? I'm reminded of, I don't know if any of you watched the show The Waltons. I still remember when John Boy was going hunting for Thanksgiving turkey, and he couldn't do it. I'm like, is that going to be me? Am I not going to be able to do that? But thankfully it was. We didn't have the best setup when my wife and I were doing it in the city. We were using a clothesline and hanging the chicken up, and and dispatching it and picking the feathers off by hand. It was a rough thing, but we were able to get through it, and that was empowering to be able to say, hey, we were able to process a chicken that we can eat. But since then, well, we've learned how to do it a lot better. I've gotten around some of those individuals that my mentors, and have watched them and learned from them firsthand, and been able to improve our systems with that. But each of our children, not everyone feels uh, confident about being in the different stages of processing, and I respect that, and work with them in their own comfortability within that, because you got this different station. You got the dispatch station where you actually slit the throat of the animal and end its life, and then you got the take, for example, if you're taking a chicken, duck, or turkey, then after that, then you put it in the scalder to get rid of the feathers, and then to put it in the plucker where it ultimately gets rid of the feathers, and then you got the evisceration station, and then you got these other stations, and then we've kind of have worked in a way, figured out a way that each of our family members are involved in the area that they feel comfortable in. Like one of my sons, he doesn't want to be in the dispatching area at all. He just doesn't feel comfortable with it. So you're like, you know what? You know what goes on in you eating the food, but we're not going to force you to be in this particular area. So we'll put you in. What about bagging? After we've done everything, we've cleaned it up, and it kind of looks somewhat like it does in the grocery store. Why don't you help us with packaging and bagging it and things like that? He's like, yeah, I can do that. I could totally do that. So we kind of just do what we can to work together and to accept where everyone is with those type of things. But I do think anyone who eats meat, everyone should have at least been involved in that experience in their life at least once, because it gives you a whole different perspective on life, your food, your meat. For me, it's almost like it's also like this spiritual. I know it sounds weird. The spiritual experience as well. It's really, really powerful.
Bringing up that experience, does your meals, when you eat do you get a different satisfaction these days and a different feeling because you grow it, you kill it, and then you put it on the table and you provide for your family. So maybe go into detail a little bit more how much more of a connection you have with your food.
It is. Let's see, how do I start that one? Man, I can go pretty deep on it. Even processing our turkeys for Thanksgiving that we were doing the other day, it was just I I I know some farmers, like you mentioned earlier, don't name their animals. And I don't prefer usually do that either. If it's going to be animals that we plan to eat, if it's animals that we plan to keep, we'll do that. We will name them. But for some reason, I still got really, really attached to these turkeys that we had been raising here recently. And every time I'd go feed them, give them water, they would just follow me all around. And I'm like, man, this is the closest I've ever been to an animal that I know that I'm getting ready to have to butcher and provide for my family. And man, it was weighing on me. It's one of those things though. It was just I know what's going to happen. I know it's coming up, and I think that's important too. As if you're raising animals, that you to do that to talk about that with your family and to be able to work through those things together. I think that's important. But even I could even pick up the turkey, and even they were just really comfortable with me. And I still remember them just looking at me. And I'm like, oh man, it just kind of hit me how powerful it was. But just that reminder that the animal is giving its life taken for my life and the life of my family's life to keep going on is just one of those powerful things. And um, it's it's something that's special. And for me, just I'm also a Christian. I'm not trying to offend anybody who's not, but just it reminds me also of Jesus' sacrifice for our life to continue. And those are kind of the deep things that you kind of get into those moments, and it's just like, wow, it's a powerful thing. And then to be able to see, like my daughter just tonight, so she made fried chicken tenders, homemade from scratch, from chickens that we had processed here, and then we're all enjoying it together, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And it really does taste better, but the sense of satisfaction that comes with enjoying something that you made sure that animal had the best life possible every day, and that it only had one bad day. There's something that is just so rewarding and empowering with that. And um I wish that more people could have that experience and that sense of satisfaction, because it feels good. And I'm enjoying the chickens that my daughter made, and we also were eating a salad with it that we also grew. And then I'm looking over to my family members and seeing them enjoying the same thing. And then I'm just like, wow. And even watching my daughter as she was cooking it, it was just neat to see that it was just like a glow. It was just a neat experience, and I really enjoy it, and it makes you feel good. It really does.
So you bring up having the turkeys for Thanksgiving. I know you got ducks and chicken. What does the majority of your protein consumption look like? Do you guys have red meat in there? Are you guys
Oh yeah.
bartering with families, other farms, stuff like that?
Yes. We do most of the chicken that we eat from our farm. We'll do ducks from here as well. We do eggs, duck eggs and chicken eggs. Let's see here. We do milk every day from here, but we don't grow beef. So we will buy that from local farms that are nearby. I'm trying to think of anything else that we would do. We do have a pond that we do have fish in. That's I'm not into fishing, but I do like fish. So maybe my sons will take on that a little bit more and harvest from there a little bit more. But that's something we enjoy. But a lot of the protein, I will do protein shakes every now and then. But actually now with the cow, we can actually make our own whey as well. So that's something that my wife is getting into. She started getting into, I think last week, started working on that. I was like, wow, I didn't even know you could do it like that. So yeah, we a lot of protein here. We are. My wife was on carnivore diet for a while. I wouldn't say I'm on carnivore specifically, but I had found even through bodybuilding that the higher protein diet, lower carbohydrates work better for me. Too many carbs, I feel like I'm getting sluggish, especially in the middle of the day. But Yeah, a lot of protein here.
So would you say at this point in the farmsteading that, with the exception of maybe some seasonings and stuff like that, everything that you put in your body is something that you're growing or processing?
I wish that was the goal. We're not quite there yet. I'm not even
Okay.
sure if we would, how realistic it is for us to be there. It would require multiple to create more facets to our farm where other people would have to do some of those things. And even then, I still don't know if it would be everything. Like there's things like salt. There's no way we can
Right.
harvest our own salt here. Trying to think of some other things. Uh, Fruits, some of the various fruits. There's some things that we just have to go to a store and buy, or it would just be ridiculously laborsome and elaborate for us to try to do it. So things like fruits. We are trying to do our own honey. We're not quite there yet, but just other little things. But most of the core things we grow a lot of, like tomatoes, all you like your garden stuff. We grow that. We're not so big into things like potatoes, just because we hadn't gotten there yet. Nor do I know if we have the space to do it. That's something we'll have to figure out. So some of the bigger crops, the more exotic um, things we don't do, but the core of our meat and things is local. It really is local.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say the proteins, fats, and vegetables are a lot from here. Now you're looking at your grains, things like that. No, that's not would be we don't have that.
Okay. Okay. Like you mentioned, you know your faith a little bit ago. Curious, was that something that was always a part of who you are or were, or is that
Um,
something that kind of came more into play as the farmstead came about?
it's been a journey, but I would say it's kind of aligned with my spiritual journey has been aligned with the journey that we've had with our farm and this way of life. Just because there's so many parallels and connections. And you just reading the Bible, it's so agrarian based, and you can see that there's a lot of lessons to learn spiritually from the physical things around us in that connection, like uh, hatching, incubating, or hatching eggs. When a chicken hatches an egg, you don't expect a miniature goat or something to come out. That there's it's a powerful thing to see happen, and it's miraculous. But you see a baby chicken come out of there. Same with duck or any other animal, and just all the different spiritual lessons that there are, and learning things like patience and and just watching the different things that there's systems here, that it is just not a chaotic mess, that everything when you put it together, not necessarily in a monoculture system, but when you have a poly system or animals and plants, they function and work together. You see that, wow, it, these things just couldn't have happened. This just there's just so many things that are just a miracle, that it's just amazing. And it's neat to see those type of things in this lifestyle as well. If I was in a cubicle somewhere, I'm not saying that I'm not down anybody who does have to work that kind of lifestyle, but I don't feel like I would have the same appreciation for the creation and the systems that are out there within this natural creation. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful to see. It's almost like you you can kind of just watch the things happen. It's almost like you're watching a symphony with pictures and videos happening right in front of you. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It
that's
really
amazing.
is.
So we see you sitting in your yurt, and we know you have pride living in a yurt. I know on the YouTube channel, if any of our listeners go and check out, you've gone to other people's yurts and kind of highlighted them. Do you ever miss living in the house, living in a neighborhood, or do you enjoy having the yurt, or is there maybe some things you didn't think about? I know that the septic tank gave you some issues a little while back.
Let's see here. I never thought that I would live in a yurt or a glorified tent, whatever it is. But it was the vehicle that provided us with this lifestyle, the life that we wanted to live. Without it, I don't know how it would have happened otherwise, because we didn't have a budget for doing anything else. So we were able to, when we were considering and thinking about moving out of the city, we came across a used yurt on Craigslist, and we were like, oh, wow, let's see if we can get that. So we drove up. It was, I think, probably like 2.5, 3 hours away. Somebody was selling this yurt kit. It was all, they had all disassembled and ready to go, and we made them an offer. They accepted it, and we were able to buy our yurt. And for a number of months, we had this yurt in the garage of our other house. It just sounds weird. Your future house is in the garage of your house you're living in now. So we were able to eventually sell our home in the city. We had to sell pretty much everything we had to make this happen. My wife even sold her engagement ring and our second car, just because we were really dedicated. We really wanted to pursue this lifestyle, and we were able to do so with those changes and that level of taking it serious, and the blessing that we had God to be able to do it. And it has been an adjustment. It was an adjustment early on, just from going to 2,600 square foot house to 700 square foot house was an adjustment. And I grew up in the city, and just the overall change of the environment was an adjustment too. But quickly it became very, very worthwhile. And I really enjoy the piece of just being able to go walk outside, and just to be able to, if I just want to walk, meditate, pray, whatever, go out and look at my animals, and not just have my neighbor's dog barking at me every time I'm going, which I had actually had two neighbors every time I go in my backyard just to have a quiet moment. That there was no quiet moment. It was just constant noise, fire trucks and police cars going, sirens constantly going off, and we don't have those type of things. There's just, you can actually have a peace of mind and quiet and peacetime, living out here a little bit more, and that released some stress too. So that was one of the things that I didn't realize until we started moving out here, that I needed some healing from that constant life of go, 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 stress, noises, especially being at the gym for hours each day. And we're constantly hearing the music. There's just fast paced music, which I enjoy fast paced music. But when you hear that all day long, and then you're having all these stimuli of just causing havoc on your nervous system. I didn't realize that my nervous system was just out of whack for a while from having to deal with that. And I had dealt with some adrenal fatigue and things like that just from having that experience. And it's been neat to be able to heal from those things, and to have those calm moments, and be able to go outside and hear the frogs or hear the birds, and just have those moments of peace have been really, really enjoyable. Now, the cons that I would say is adjusting to a smaller space, especially with having kids, is there's a lot more stuff. Sometimes you got to figure out how to manage stuff. Sometimes you got to say no to bringing in stuff, just because you can't store it all. You got to be a lot more intentional with that. So we are at the point where we're planning to set up our second yurt, which we bought, but we just haven't set up yet. So we're looking forward to that, just to kind of spread out a little bit more. This yurt right here will be converted to just bedroom space, and that other yurt is going to be kitchen and dining. That we're looking forward to that. Just a little bit of an expansion. So looking forward to that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that on the YouTube, and we brought up
There we
that
go.
you're a very successful content creator. I'm curious how you manage running the homestead with all the chores and stuff, and getting video of all the content, editing all the content. I think you got a drone over there. I seen some of the
Yeah,
shots. So how do you
yeah.
how do you manage all that? Do you have help with the camera work? How do you do all that?
Well, I do a lot of it. My daughter has she's got an artistic eye. She's very good. A lot of the thumbnails, she's the one that took the pictures for that, and I just kind of worked with some graphics to kind of add it on. So she's been a blessing with that. But as far as a lot of the camera work and planning out the subjects and things that we're going to do, that's mostly on me. I do the videoing, I do the planning of what we're going to do, the project. But my wife, she does a great job on doing the editing. She's our editor. I don't think I could do it without her on creating the content and running a farmstead, because it's actually, you got to actually do the work. It's not like I'm just showing off my body or whatever and just putting it on video. No, we got to actually video something as well as work and do something. So it does take time. It does take time and planning. So yeah. So yeah.
So you bring up the thumbnails, and they're very impressive, and they've definitely evolved over the years of your content creation. And you have very good titles too. Do you take
Appreciate that.
time to research kind of what do you need to do to get the most views on your videos? What kind of titles work? Same thing with the thumbnails.
I have done some of that, and I find that some people they're attracted to drama, things that stand out. Like you need something that's going to stir people to action to click on it. Not that you're necessarily clickbait. I try to be somewhat interesting without being clickbaity or lying to somebody. So sometimes that's a fine line, but it does have to be something that engages and draws people attention, and that takes thought. Sometimes some of those things can take me an hour or two to figure out when I'm working on that, and as well as crafting or editing the thumbnail. So that could take time. It does take time.
Mike, how long were you creating content and vlogging and that sort of stuff before you started to notice I'm onto something, or you started getting some hits and maybe some YouTube checks were coming your way?
Let's see here. Let's see. We've been doing this now somewhere around 6 years or so. I would say maybe about two, 3 years somewhere, maybe about 2 or 3 years into it. I'm just kind of rough guessing it. But I would say it also wasn't necessarily just the time, but it was also a change in the mindset. For me, I needed to grow. From the mindset of taking it at not considering it a hobby, but a job. And putting the time in that went with that it's not just something I would do in my spare time, that it was not necessarily a job, I should say. I'll take that back. A business, that it needs to be something that I'm thinking about ongoing, and not just this little thing that I dabble with here and there when I feel like it. I think that has a lot to do with people's success as well. Now there's some channels that they come up with something interesting, and they're almost like an accident success. But I've noticed that those channels don't last long because they haven't learned what it takes to continue that success. I've seen that on a few channels. But the ones that really understand that it's a business and there's certain things that you have to put into it on a regular basis, a daily basis, those are the ones that usually do well, because you got to have that change in mindset, and that's the same with other things. Same when I was bodybuilding, it had to be, for me to be a bodybuilder and actually be on stage. It was a change of mindset for me just going to work out 3 to 5 times a week. That it had to be something that I'm dedicated to the diet. I'm dedicated to putting the time in and taking care of my body, getting good sleep. Same applies to the building the YouTube channel. Same type of the discipline involved. That's why I learned so much from bodybuilding that I have tried to apply it in other areas of my life. Just the discipline was really helpful. That I know that, hey, there's certain recipe for success in anything that requires discipline, sacrifice, hard work, all those things. If you can learn that, you can apply it in a lot of different areas.
Other than the chores, how are you instilling that with your children in terms of the discipline and applying that?
With the chores also comes teaching. This is one of the things that along that spiritual journey with being here, that I've also I am striving to be a father that leads and teaches my family. So not, in addition to giving them chores, that I'm also providing them with instruction and teaching them, and the relationship all at the same time, and having that, developing and working on that relationship, so that way they're more receptive to teaching. I think that's extremely important, not to just to tell them to do things, but work on nurturing the relationships. And then I think also sometimes even people in this realm, they get so focused on work and there's never any leisure time. I think that's important as well. having just fun times together also helps to build relationships, so people are more receptive to listening to you. So I try to do fun things with my kids from time to time as well. That just helps to nurture our relationship, so that way that I can have time to teach them as well. We all enjoy having fun. It's good for us as well. As long as our life, and they've heard me say this before, we work, then we play. We can work hard and then play hard. That's totally fine, but we got to work first. We got to work hard first, so that we've earned the right to play, because that's a reward that comes. So that's something I strive to do as well, to help us all, and even teaching them helps to reinforce in me that reminder that I need to do these things as well.
Yeah. Everything's a teachable moment, right?
Yes, yes, taking advantage of teachable moments.
And is work 7 days a week?
Nope. We do 6 days a week, and we have
Okay.
a day of rest. We observe, and that's the day that we try to double up on the chores on Fridays, and then Saturdays are day of rest, where we can just we can sleep in, we can hang out and just have brunch and talk together. We can go to church, and we can just have a day of rest. The kids enjoy that, where they don't have to get out there and grind 7 days a week, because our bodies need that too. Even working out, you can't go 7 days a week. I've overtrained in the past before, where I tried to do that 7 days a week, sometimes 2 a days, and all that. Your body needs rest. Your mind needs rest. Your nervous system needs rest, and we got to make sure we give it to it. We're not robots or perpetual motion machines. We need to be mindful of those things.
So before you brought up most of your life, before you kind of got into the bodybuilding and then the homesteading, that you couldn't breathe because of the food you were eating. And me and Rich have been there as well, but you brought up that, sometimes you guys like to play, you like to let loose. How do you incorporate maybe some junk food, some sugar and stuff? Do the kids ever dabble in that? Do you ever notice kind of, or do they ever say to you, oh man, I really felt that, I don't want that?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that my wife and I noticed early on, because our kids, we try to make sure that they eat pretty clean, is they would go away to the grandparents' house, and then they would come back, and they would just be like different kids. They would have behavior issues, and we got to the point where we're like asking them, like, "What are you eating when you go over there?" And they didn't know that, my grandparents didn't know that they were having the red dyes, the different color dyes in the food that they were eating, and that it does some crazy things to our kids. They just start having some behavior issues. So we knew that we've told them, we're like, you don't do the dyes. Ever don't do the dyes, because you're just having problems. They would have problems with sleeping, and like I said, the behavior problems as well. But well, we will have sweets. It's okay. Like when we do our day of rest, we'll have my daughter. She's getting into like making pies and different desserts. She makes those, but she makes them in a way she's not using dyes. She's not using artificial colors or flavors and things like that. And she's mindful not to use too much sugar. And if she does use sugar, she's using cane sugar or honey or molasses, things like that. That's not going to cause too much havoc on our sugar, our insulin levels. So she's mindful of that. We also use fruits and some of those things, like real fruits. We use blueberries, blackberries, and things like that. Strawberries that we grow here. So we'll have things like that from time to time. But one of the things that I personally noticed after living a life of so much of that junk, actually, when I first stopped eating all the sugar, I noticed when I tried to eat an apple, when I was eating all that junk, that it didn't really have a flavor. But then after I was years of eating clean, I'd go back and eat at some of those things, and I'm like, wow, these things taste fantastic. But then if I try to eat some of that junk that I used to eat before, it's just like, oh man, that just tastes terrible. That's just too much sugar. And they have some of those moments if they go somewhere and they're just like, oh, that's just too sugary or too this. It just so they're learning, and we're trying to instill in them at an early age. But ultimately, as they get older, they'll eventually have to make that choice themselves. But we're at least providing them with that foundation is the goal.
And talking about the daily chores and stuff, and I'm sure there's some stuff on the homestead that maybe when you see your kids doing it, you feel proud or feel like they're kind of beyond their years because they're
Yeah.
doing it at the age. Have you had any moments like that? Like, wow, I can't believe my son or daughter's doing that at this age and has the maturity to do something like that?
Yeah. there's been so many of those, and I'll tell them sometimes. I'm like, you're way further ahead than I was with this or that when I was your age. And I was just thinking about a couple of things. Even today, my sons, I loaded up a couple of yards of dirt in the back of my pickup truck, and I told them, just shovel this out by hand in the area that I needed it in. And I think you can do it. You can do it. And I left them. They did it. They got the whole thing done. And I let them know that you guys did a great job today. You guys did a great job. And then my daughter, as she's taking more on cooking and some of the things like that, some of the things that she's just been making is just fantastic. And I'll tell them, I'm like, I can't even cook like that now.
Mhm.
Great job. Way to go. Yeah, the chicken that she made cook some of the wings from our chickens and some tenders from our chicken today. And it's just like, I'd have no idea how to do that, especially at your age. The 13, there's no way I'd know what to do. So way to go on that. And even thinking of them, my daughter, she really likes the processing of getting hands on with the evisceration of a chicken. She'll reach in there and pull everything out, and then she's like showing me the leg and how the tendon works. She's like, "Look at that, that's pretty cool." I was like, "I didn't even know I did that. That's pretty neat." But it's neat to see that. There's once again, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I didn't know anything about that either when I was your age. So it feels good. It's one of those things. It just really makes you feel good as a parent to see your children when they do some of those things, and it's neat. And it makes you feel like, yes, that's the reason we've gone through some of the hard things that we had over the years to do some of these moments, to experience some of these things. It's like that's why. That's why.
Yeah, there's no greater connection than that what you have with the family and being together and doing all those
Yeah.
sorts of things. And like you said, there's so many adults that don't have the ability to do those things. Even
Yep.
the things like cooking. Um,
Yep.
it's shocking that or unfortunate, I should say, that a lot of adults don't know how to fend for themselves in simple tasks like preparing a meal, and they have the ability to go to the grocery store to get those
Yeah.
items, not like plucking
Exactly.
chickens and doing all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff too to get to the table. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Oh,
amazing.
another one that comes to mind is my he's 70 years old now. He was 6 years old. I remember we're getting chicken feed from the local farmer down the road at a feed mill. He picks up the 50-pound bag, 6 years old, and loads it on. I was like, dude, I wish I was that strong when I was your age. How did you do that?
There's a farm strength is a real thing, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, there's something to that. I didn't really I encountered that a little bit in high school. We would lift weights and getting ready for football, and then sometimes we would go against some of the guys that didn't lift weights at all. They just lived on the farm, and we were like, "How are you guys so strong?" And they're like, "We just lift stuff all day long."
Yeah, we just work.
So, yeah, yeah.
Do they have peer connections, social connections?
As far as social media or like one-on-one friendships and
Like
things like that.
friendships, yeah, friendships,
Yes.
neighbors, stuff like that, yeah.
Not any like neighbors, because we don't. Our neighbors are further out and older.
Okay.
But they do have friends. I try to be really intentional about making sure that they have good friendships with friends, people that values align with ours, because it's important to encourage one another. I will go out of my way well, one of our farm helpers happens to be a good friend of my daughter's, and they'll do farm work together. They'll cook meals together for both our families, and but then also we'll do things where we'll go to some of our friends who are more distant. So we'll try to make sure that a couple times a year we do some kind of outing together. Um, and then let's see here. We also are a part of. I take my boys to Trail Life. It's kind of like Boy Scouts if you're not familiar with that, but it's a Christian-based scouting thing. We do that, so we try to be intentional about those things, that we're just not an island unto ourselves. That we are developing communities and connecting with our tribe as well, and connecting with other people. I also have tried to be really intentional about when I'm making deliveries for our farm products to our customers. I always bring at least one of the our children with us, because I think that they learn through learning how we are interacting with others, and I've tried to encourage them, and they do. They'll interact with the customers and people that we're dealing with as well, because I noticed I was in public school, but a lot of times when you're the children that come through public schooling, at least until they're in college or whatever, are usually only comfortable with really connecting with people in their age, because you go all through public school with interacting with people that are in your age group. But with homeschooling, and especially if you're intentional about it, I want our kids, and they're able to do it, to be able to talk with anybody at any age, from a baby to 85 years old. And it's been neat to see is my daughter. I've seen her talk to people in their 60s and 70s and even 80s.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah, I think that's real beneficial, and so is the skills that they're learning on the homestead. You had mentioned a farmstead and a homestead, and I'm sorry for not knowing the difference. Could you tell me and our audience what the difference is?
Basically, a farmstead and a farm could kind of be like together, and then you got a homestead. A homestead really is just mainly providing for the needs of the family, the individuals on that property. Once you start going beyond that and providing for others, you technically would be more of a farm or farmstead. I like the word farmstead just because sometimes when people think farm, they think like this big mega farm, and I'm not that. I'm not a big mega farm. So I feel like I'm like this hybrid in the middle. I'm like this farm homestead combination, farmstead.
All right.
So
thank you for explaining for the noobs like me.
yeah, you're welcome.
I guess, Mike, if you had like a couple, like maybe your top 5 YouTube videos for noobs, for beginners, or people that are looking to either get more into homesteading or at least just, grow some of their own food, or what might be the easiest ways to get started?
Of my videos, let's see.
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough. Well, if you're gonna process your own meat, especially if you're gonna process your own ducks, I have a duck video that it tells you exactly how to process ducks. So if you're looking to raise ducks for meat, check out that video. That one comes to mind. Let's see here. I have a couple of chicken videos that, as far as like, I think maybe one of them may be like the best chicken system, something like that. I would encourage people to check out that one, as well as one I did on Polyface Farms, Joel Salton's chicken system. If somebody wants to have like an inspiration, this wouldn't necessarily be like for starters homesteading, but it could be like one of those things that just inspires the vision for where you could be, with the video of the best chicken system I think that I've ever seen, or something like that, and it shows Joel Salton's farm and how he has his chickens and how they're raised. And I was recording that one right as the sun was coming up, and it was one of my favorite ones. It's like the beauty behind it. It's just a beautiful place. They live in the Shenandoah Valley, and it's just amazing. So there's that one. You said 5, so I think I'm gonna need 2 more. There's one that I did on like easy gardening. Like if somebody is just like maybe they're behind on their garden, I think maybe something like the easiest way to start a garden or something like that. That would be another one that I would check out. Let's see here. I'm drawing a blank on the 5th one. If you want to live in a yurt, you can check out one of those, and alternative housing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious. I guess this would be my last one for you personally. Chicken, duck, or turkey? Which do you prefer?
Depends what you mean, as far as which one do I prefer to eat, which one do I prefer to hang out with, which one do I
all the above. Which are the easiest easiest to kind of raise for food purpurposes, and which one?
Chicken's by far the easiest.
Chicken.
Yeah, I think that is the easiest farm animal to start with, is the chicken. You got a chicken, and you got your levels of difficulty. I would probably say goat is probably the hardest one for most people. just because a goat can escape out about everything that you you can think of, and you got to figure some of those things out. But a chicken is mostly easy as long as you can protect it from predators. Chicken is by far the easiest one. Ducks is a tad harder. Turkeys, man, I really like the bond. I know that bond sometimes doesn't always last, but I think turkeys are a beautiful animal. Who was that? Was it Thomas Jefferson that said that our national, or Benjamin Franklin, that our national bird or animal should be the turkey? And I totally agree with him. I'd rather have the turkey than the bald eagle. I just think the turkey is just, there's so much about a turkey. It's a beautiful animal, and it provides food for people to eat. And it's just, I wish that was the national animal there. But yeah, if I was to pick one, I guess it would be the chicken, just for the simplicity and some of the things. And I love chicken. I think turkeys are harder, even though I like their personalities better. And ducks, it's just so neat to see a duck, especially if you're able to let them swim in the pond and see them kind of. I still remember early on when we were raising ducks and we let them on the pond first time, that they would actually go under the water, and it's neat to see that. And you're like, where did it go? And then it just pops out. Yeah. That's so cool.
Right on. What you prefer eating chicken the most too? Yeah.
All of them are good too. But I would say it's one of those things. Again, I think a lot of people cooking it, chicken's the easiest too. So I guess all around, for all those factors, I guess I'd have to pick the chicken.
Okay. Right on. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mike, we have the final four. We have 4 questions that we ask all our guests at the end of every episode. The first question I have for you is, are you a coffee drinker?
I am. I only drink coffee when I need it. I personally prefer tea. I don't necessarily like coffee, but if I'm like driving or I need that caffeine, I don't do it every day. But if I need it, I will do coffee. But overall, I'm a tea guy.
Do you have a way you take your tea or your coffee, or is it just I kind of got to get that caffeine in when I need it?
I'll take it however you give me for the coffee when I need it. I told my daughter when she makes it sometimes for me, I don't care. I just need the caffeine. But for my tea, and I like all kinds of tea. I like chai tea. I like different herbs from the outside in the garden, rosemary. And I'll just make some concoction tea. I like honey with it, and with a little bit of raw milk. That's how I like my tea.
Awesome. Mike, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would probably say prayer and some time of meditation, and just getting my mind geared up for the challenges of the day, and asking God to guide me and help me out.
Excellent. Thank you.
What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Oh man, I listen to all of those. It depends what I feel like my need is for the particular day. There's times or we're processing turkeys. It just needs some music to listen to, and we just have a good time with it. And so those will be times like that. But if I'm like driving somewhere, like we were driving to deliver the turkeys, this was this past Friday. We're listening to podcasts or sermon messages where we're just like, I need a different feeling for the day. I have a different need for today. So it depends on my need for today, but I'm always trying to feed my mind with something of some substance. I'll read too. We're reading a booklet last week about 7 laws of success. It varies. It depends what my need is. So
All right.
all of those.
Okay. What kind of music is turkey processing music?
My personal preference for music is 80s music.
Okay.
I'm an 80s guy.
Heck yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like being away from the city and being on the farm, do you still have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures?
Ooh. Give me an example. Something maybe somebody else has said.
Ice cream,
Chocolate,
chocolate,
some corny music.
video games.
I will say every now and then I need like this mental break, and I'll go and play the Xbox and go play NBA 2K.
Okay.
It's just one of those things. I don't have to think. I can just like kind of take a time out. That'll be my answer there.
All right. Who's your team?
I like two teams. Our team is the Charlotte Hornets, but I've always been a Los Angeles Lakers fan.
Okay. Right on. Thank you, sir.
Mike,
All righty.
thank you so much for your time tonight. I really enjoyed this, and thank you for taking time out of your evening with your family to talk to Airey Bros.
All righty. Thank you guys for having me on. It was a pleasure. This was a blast.
Yeah, really appreciate your time, Mike. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I bet that that turkey's going to taste a lot better than most of the people's turkeys that are listening tonight.
I'm looking forward to it. Hope you
I'll
guys
bet.
have a great Thanksgiving as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
You
sir.
too. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
All right.